So, welcome all of you. And as you all could see, that we are dedicating this episode to a very near and dear and respected Nirvair Bhai Sahib, who is no more with us in the Sakar bodily form, what we say, but he definitely exists as an angel with us. So, it's really an amazing divine coincidence, I must say, that this episode, Softness, Gentleness, it really is so apt, this value to his behavior as he was. He was so humble, gentle, kind, all the values related to softness. So here we are, and we are so fortunate to have two senior Raj Yogis with us. Sister Kala Iyengar, who's the director of Peace Village, and also Sister Claudia Aisunja, both from Peace Village. So welcome both of you. And as always, before we begin, I'll introduce both of you. Sister Kala has been with us many times. Sister Claudia is here for the first time. So before I begin, I'll introduce both of you. This value actually is indeed not very much spoken about, being soft hearted, being kind, and being gentle. So we'll see what they have to share. So Sister Kala is actually a board certified pediatrician, I must say, Dr. Kala Iyengar, and she's a spiritual teacher by passion, very much born and educated in India. And she had a fervor for a new order of human values and well being, which is reflected in her dedication towards the work of the Brahma Kumaris. And as we speak, she is the director of the Peace Village Retreat Center. And she's been actively involved in various projects of the Brahma Kumaris. To name a few, the Global Cooperation for a Better World, the Million Minutes of Peace Appeal, and the Culture of Peace. And during her professional career, she has been actually extensively involved in getting the integrative approach to identify and manage the non-physical causes of illness and suffering. And she has represented the BKs again at the UNICEF and has immense wealth of talks and workshops, which she's done many times. And also she's associated with the Point of Life Foundation through programs such as Hope in Healthcare and Feel Well and Heal Well. So thank you so much, Sister Kala, for joining. And now we have Claudia, you, another senior Raj Yogi joining from Peace Village. So for 30 years, Sister Claudia has been working as a professional qualitative research insight specialist. Quite a mouthful, I'll repeat. A professional qualitative research insight specialist. And she's a certified convening leader and a workshop retreat facilitator. So hang on, she'll be facilitating again along with the talk and conversation. She'll be giving you quite a few questions to reflect. So please keep your pens and papers ready. She is passionate about co-convening gatherings where people reconnect to their innate nature as souls and where authentic engagement is rooted in love and an atmosphere of trust. That's what she says. She's discovered Raj Yoga and has been a regular meditator since last 25 to 26 years. And she says that she especially appreciates why Raj Yoga, because it's transformational power and the practical application to everyday life. And finally, her curiosity and love for learning finds its most enjoyable expression when exploring and experimenting with deeper spiritual truths through Raj Yoga. So, with this, again, welcome to you as well. And before we move on, as always, a poem. I'll try to be short, but at least 12 lines are there. So, despite being the director, Sister Kala carries herself with so much of easiness, to which Sister Claudia adds by responding always with the attitude of softness. Both manage the Peace Village dynamics with utmost care and gentleness, which gives the visitors there the feeling of togetherness. They teach through their actions how to practice oneness, because while dealing with each other, you have to use the virtue of forgiveness. In today's stressful life, which is otherwise full of forgetfulness, the solution of Raj Yoga with its immense profoundness, which teaches us how to develop the mental wellness and to be away from the vices of life which otherwise push us into illness, thereby giving our lives the much needed fragrance of freshness so that we can then gain the status of his or her holiness and highness. So, with these verses, I welcome both of you. It's immense pleasure, and we are so fortunate for the 100th episode. We have both of you. It's a landmark episode for us. We were actually supposed to finish it this year, but many said go on to 108, which is an auspicious figure. So, there you are. So, thank you so much, and all yours now.
Thank you, Dr. Manoj.
And also, sorry, I forgot. Sorry, in the excitement, maybe I'll request Sister Claudia from Vancouver to please welcome officially to both of you. Yeah.
Shanti, good morning from Vancouver. I think you are still in the morning in New York, but it's a pleasure to have both of you with us today. To commemorate 100 episode is not that easy. When the challenge came through this episode, sometimes the people could not come, and sometimes this and that. So the boat went across, and then still we are here together today and having this lucky to have both of you with us. So it's actually I always look at this Sister Carla, and I think that she's so soft when she speaks, and also very gentle, very gentle. I don't know my other Claudia much, but I know, but I'm sure for her face, we can see that she's also the same qualities. And we are looking for to learn more of Sister Carla and to tell us what goes in your mind when you speak, that you can bring that softness, that gentleness when you talk, especially when you are talking about, conduct a retreat is not that easy. It's lots of things comes across. But I see you always on that, you always goes very gentle with the boat of the retreat, very gentle and always speak very soft. So we need to learn that value, how we can increase that value in our life. So I like to welcome you with a flower. Now we are going through fall, so a nice fall color flower for you to put. You have so nice garden there. One little more flower for your garden.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for being with us.
Really appreciate that. Yes. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Wow, feel so honored to be here. And just so appreciate, I am assuming, Dr. Manoj, you came up with that poem. It's very beautiful. And also this analogy of the boat. I grew up sailing. My father was a sailor, so I love the analogy of the boat. But as Dr. Manoj Bhai was sharing, one of the things that I enjoy bringing into a gathering is this opportunity to become fully present and be conscious of our own presence. And so before Kala and I begin, I'm going to invite us just to become aware of and present to this field and this space we're in together. And this is based on something called the art of convening practice, which is another area as I became deeper in my own spiritual exploration. This showed up for me. I started as a qualitative researcher, and this kind of became the spiritual depth of that inquiry, a method to do that as well. So it's called art of convening. But it's really around first to draw attention to this space. We're co-creating together the container as a way to hold us all in presence and also in safety, in openness, the feeling of belonging and aliveness. So again, to create that intentional atmosphere of trust. And so even though we're all here from all over the globe, which is really wonderful, and just invite us to imagine each of us are in one of these boxes on Zoom, in Zoom land. But imagine if we were all together, we could be sitting in circle, and that we could be in that circle of beads, like beads in a rosary, and in that feeling of wholeness. And so I just invite us just to take a moment to just look in your own area, in your own physical space, and just appreciate where you are sitting. You're sitting in your own room, sitting in this body as the living being, giving life to the body. And we're sitting together in circle. And then as part of this, in terms of creating the relational field, we just invite us into just a few agreements as a way to maximize the quality of our time together. And so one of the things we do invite you is if you're here, if you can, put yourself on screen so we can see you, so you can feel your presence. So we agree here to be fully present and invite you to be free from any other distractions. We agree that this is a place where we can listen deeply and practice our listening as a way to be free from any judging, interpreting, or trying to fix anyone or anything. It's really a way to listen with the intent to understand and to be of service. We agree to come with an open mind and just to notice your own assumptions, to suspend certainty and allow for newness to emerge and allow for fresh ideas. This is also a space where we honor confidentiality. So what is said here, I know this is going to go all over the world, but we also honor what is being said and not say anything that maybe somebody writes or says in the chat without their express permission. And this is a place where we presume the intention is of the highest level, very positive. And we also acknowledge the impact of our own thoughts, our own words, and our own actions. And then we just ask for all who are here to just your permission to co-convene this space together. It means we move things along as point, especially be me and Dr. Manoj, and I think Dr. Anu, Dr. Anu as well. And so if that's okay, we can just have a little thumbs up. You agree with that? And then we'll create the container that way. Good. Right. And then the other thing we'd like to do is just to hear from you in the chat. So I will put the questions there and you can just write in the chat. Some of you can, just where you're joining in from and maybe one or two words of your current condition. In other words, how are you feeling in this moment? How are you showing up in this moment? So we'll just take just a minute to do that. Mm. So we can just be able to watch that on the side as people show up. That's really wonderful. So thank you. So, Carla. And we're going to talk about maybe experience.
Yes, first and foremost, Om Shanti, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, even to everyone who is watching from all over. Once again, it's my great fortune, privilege to be on this beautiful program, which to me, I know as I was watching over the months and years, it felt like a marathon program. And I must say hats off to Dr. Manoj and of course the entire team of those who have kept it going for 100 episodes. And really fortunate and auspicious that I was remembered and invited for the program today. Not to say that it's even more auspicious that we are going to be remembering our dear brother Nirvair on this quality of gentleness and softness. So thank you again. And thanks, Claudia, for that wonderful beginning. I think we're all in for a treat. I can feel even across the oceans and across from the screens, the computer screens of everyone, I can feel the container that has been already created over the months and years, I feel, because you would think that, yes, there is X number of values or virtues, and there's only so much you can do with them. But it's almost like a well, isn't it? The deeper you dig, you find how deep the well is and how deep the waters can be. So I can tell that, everyone has been diving deep into this well of virtues, deep waters. So here comes the virtue of gentleness and softness today that we're going to be talking about. And my first impression of this quality or value of gentleness and softness, if you may, speaking from my personal perspective, of course, is that it's a natural. In other words, it's a way of being. In order for us to experience fully, what is life, I think it's important for us to have these qualities of softness and gentleness. I'm saying that because, there are many qualities of our values that we think of as if we need to kind of, grow them fresh or cultivate them fresh. And for me, when it comes to gentleness, it doesn't come as something that I have to grow from the start. In other words, it's almost like the seed is there. And of course, I'm not saying that I'm always like that, but it just is perhaps a natural part of the soul, the sanskar, or the way of being. But what I do feel is important and has been important for me over the years, especially since I began to explore spirituality and meditate and really want to improve in my spiritual life, develop in my spiritual life, I found that this quality has to be kind of refined and spiritualized or divinized, so to speak. It's kind of it can be interpreted in a wrong way. It can be practiced in a kind of a very, even gentleness can be practiced in an abrupt way, I feel. And so what I have learned over the years is that it needs a spiritual base to stand on. It needs spiritual nourishment to be nourished and consistently, nurtured. And it also needs that spiritual sunlight, the sunlight of that supreme, the divine, who can kind of reinforce that quality in a very nice way, in a divine way, in a spiritual way. Of course, what comes to mind, the image that comes to mind is a flower, right? When you talk of softness and gentleness. And I am just, amazed at how, yes, of course, some flowers can be very delicate and very, touch me not flowers, but some flowers can also be very strong, even when they are plucked from the plant, they can still be quite long lasting. And, they give you an impression of that inner strength and beauty. So this is what comes to mind, a flower that has been growing from a very, very strong roots or strong plant, and therefore has a strong base, and can do a lot to beautify the world, to beautify the environment, and of course to spread fragrance to the whole community, family, neighborhood, of course the whole world. But yes, it's a quality that I cherish. It's a quality that I very much I'm appreciative of, having in a natural way, but it's also something that I'm working on in terms of divinizing it, spiritualizing it. So
Thank you. I know. I actually, when we were first invited to this, and I heard the topic, or heard the values we were going to be exploring together, I just, of course, color is an embodiment of this. Sister color is an embodiment of this. I think when just to add to the impressions, what comes to mind or to heart for me is that gentleness and softness, actually, especially in a spiritual sense, requires a depth of understanding and maturity. I know, especially when I think about my own journey of this journey, spiritual journey, sometimes learning new things and having an understanding can come across a little bit like a little forceful at first. You're like, I know this, or that sort of thing. And so I was thinking about how just one thing I noticed for myself was that my voice has changed over the years, and that's something that I felt is because of, as I've imbibed deeper spiritual truths and the love that's embedded in that, it has actually softened my voice. So I've noticed that. It was like interesting that a special time somebody had said, "Oh, you should be doing more of these guided meditations. Your voice is so soft." So I think that's something that I think there's more than meets the eye. The more that meets the eye, that there's a depth to this quality. There are these two qualities together that I think would be interesting for us to explore. But maybe before we do that, is there, I know that we spoke a bit earlier about Nevirbai, but is there anyone else, well, we can talk about him too, but we'll show something a bit later about him. But is there a story, Kala, Sister Kala, of somebody who really exemplified these qualities for you? And how did that touch your heart, or how were you inspired?
yeah. So it's so funny that you brought up this a subject of voice. I was just thinking, in my case, what happened after I began to practice spirituality in a conscious way was I had to actually increase the volume of my voice because I was so soft that people didn't understand me. So people used to tell me, but you have to just speak louder. So then I began to, of course, be more aware of that. But again, I think that's an external reflection. I don't think you have to lose the quality of gentleness if you speak loud. It could still be, coming with that firmness or that, confidence or whatever it might be. But it's very interesting, what comes out of your mouth, what comes out of you in terms of actions, and what deeply lies inside and motivates you are two different things, and they have to kind of match each other at some point in time. My earliest impressions of personalities or people that have kind of embodied that softness or gentleness and perhaps inspired me in a natural way, maybe as my own dad, right? Is a very soft person. Many of you would know him. And he was always soft spoken. And yet, when I go back to my impressions as a child, he was a very solid character. In other words, was not shaky. In other words, he was a very elevated person in my eyes at that time, with very high ideals. So I think that's perhaps must have stayed with me, in an unconscious way, subconscious way. That on the one hand, to hold your ideals high in terms of how you should be with people, what your behavior should be, and yet at the same time, not to go, rashly about it, or not to go, to have the inner wisdom to go around it, to go about it in a slow manner. So I think that kind of, left an impression, although it's only retrospectively I'm thinking about this. I don't think I was aware of it at the time or even after. And then, of course, I think coming into this spiritual life, I had two role models in front of me. And some of you would know Mohini Didi, and the other one in front of me was Gayatri, Sister Gayatri.
Mm-hmm.
So I lived with both of them, actually. And it was a stark contrast, if you may, in terms of the external personality. But I saw the beauty and the blending of both. And I still wanted to hold on to that, aspect of gentleness while inculcating more strength within it. In other words, I didn't want it to be just an external appearance of, gentle being, but also that inner strength that had to be blended into that gentleness. So I think I had very powerful examples in both ways, to be able to be strong in that gentleness as well as to be soft in the outward expression of it, you know. So I think those were examples, and of course, many along the way as you meet people, and it has always touched me, Nirver, Brother Nirver, as we remember him. Again, he was a man just not of character, but of humongous capacity, I think. Because usually what you tend to think of in terms of when you see someone soft and gentle is you don't connect it, you don't relate it to a capacity, a potential. And in his case, what I was seeing is, he had that tremendous potential of thinking big, and the capacity even to carry it out, in terms of actions, but not showing it in a very uh, obvious way, still maintaining that quality of understanding, softness, gentleness. And so it was a very intriguing combination for me to watch, especially now I'm retrospectively thinking about him, how there was so much potential, so much action or orientedness even, inside. And yet when it came out in a very, very gentle way, soft way, acceptable way. And that's perhaps a little secret that we can all draw from also, how to really give channelize your potential in a soft way, also. So yes.
I remember when we were talking earlier about Brother Navir, how he was also somebody who was able to make himself available, that I imagine very, very busy, very, very busy. But that there was that inner capacity, I guess how I'd put it is of being present. And then I think what I'm hearing also, how you say there's like both in your Dada, that solid character, but also there's a wisdom and being able to do things. It's almost as if tracking with time, tracking with the drama, so to speak. It's not done rashly. So, I mean, I think there's something deeper here. Around, I mean, I'm trying to understand what's the word or words that would be, because I know there's a humility that emerges with gentleness and softness. It's almost like, what is that quality of softness? It's like a metal, if it's gold, there has to be heat, and then there has to be this malleability. So there's a bit of warmth, and then there's a bit of flexibility. So what would you say to that? Yeah.
All true, all true. And as I was contemplating and thinking about this value, there was a couple of things that was coming to surface also. And one was, this whole sense of availability, where that comes from. I guess it is this sense of this expanded time awareness, that
Mhm.
you don't have this concept that you just have this much time to meet this one and therefore you have to rush it and you have to finish it. So it's this expanded sense of time, right? And so that gives you so you slow down actually, as in your thought process you slow down, and yet you're able to deliver more, and even though you're thinking less, or less in a rushed way. But if you even speak one or two sentences, for example, you deliver more through those one or two sentences, rather than if you have an agenda in your mind, for example, and you say, I have to say this to this person, and I only have 2 minutes to say it, kind of thing. And then you end up saying it in a clumsy way or in a rushed way or abrupt way, and then sometimes you've lost the game because you haven't said it in the way that the person can actually accept it. So I was thinking of this sense of relationship with time that you have. And the other thing I was also thinking of was these people that are gentle that I saw actually. They had a lot of consideration for others. you know there was this sense of putting
Mhm.
others first, almost, so to speak. And I think you called it humility, this so strong sense of I that we walk into the room with, I this, I that, but they had the consideration enough in their minds to put the other person, right? What is this person here for? What does he or she want at this time? What can I do for this person? So it was about the other person. And I'm a little bit like that also. It's easy for me to put my own myself in someone else's shoe before if I even I'm putting myself in my own shoe. But sometimes it has worked against my favor, against me. So I've
Mhm.
kind of lost that, uh,
Mhm.
lost steam in that respect. But I think when I became more spiritual, then I think I really got back into that, mode of being able to put others first without putting myself down or last. There's a way to do it,
Mhm.
um, without thinking less of me, or not doing enough justice to my own self. So,
Mhm.
but in general, I feel it's this aspect of inclusiveness and consideration for other people's feelings and state of being and needs and so on and so forth, because that allows, um, I think, your thoughts and words and actions to come out in a softer way and in a more healing way, or in a more gentle way that touches people, I think.
Mhm. Yeah, there's an expression, we actually use this in convening, you have all the time you need and all the time there is. And it's that feeling of there's enoughness, isn't there?
Mm.
And I think this whole thing about putting others first, or at least having their consideration, it's also that, in a sense, we were talking earlier about this huge capacity, like even Brother Navir has. It's that when you actually, instead of I need and want everything to come to me, it's more like this. There's this bigger holding space. There's this bigger awareness that, and it seems to be more of a giving, or more of an offering space. So there's a fullness that seems to come with this. And I know that's probably connected to all qualities, but that gentleness comes as there is this feeling that we have time, like you said, and that we are it's a patience. And I think, again, there's almost, I think the question that comes up for me is how, how is it really a strength? I mean, we're talking about what the result of it, how it comes out. But what is it that you think, even from your own journey, you said as you became more spiritual and as you practice, what was the strength that came, or how did you tap into the strength that then resulted in this deeper expression of softness and gentleness?
I think the strength actually comes from my confidence in that virtue or value. I think, that I'm firmly rooted in that virtue. It's not just a state of being because I was born like that or I was, taught like that, but it comes from a deeper place of what we call, of course, self-respect, right? That this is my way of being, my original way of being, and I must cherish it, I must hold it, I must nurture it, I must appreciate it, and I must use it well. That kind of self-respect about a virtue or a value or sanskar, as you would say. What does it actually entail? What do you mean self-respect? It means that I honor it, I believe in it, and when the time comes, and it can be times when it can be questioned, it can be challenged. Even I myself may notice that it's not working this way, but there may be other factors why it's not working. So I don't lose confidence in that virtue or that value as such, even as I face my own failure, for example, failure for lack of a better word. In other words, I have set my aim to be, have something or get across a message, and I haven't been able to do that. And then I say, next time I talk to this person, I'm going to be more forceful, more aggressive, more this thing, or whatever thing. But it's not about that. It's about actually another element, perhaps, that I have to add to that gentleness. And that may have to do with this confidence issue or that assertiveness, for example, that has to go with the gentleness. Gentle always doesn't mean that I'm wavering or people can, shake me, whatever. But the way it carries through, the energy carries through, is still gentle, and it touches people also in a gentle way. It doesn't hurt people. It doesn't create a disturbance in them, So just to kind of understand, where is it coming from? And what are all the energies that are getting mixed up inside of me even before it comes out, So I need to do a little reflection on that, I think, in order to refine that quality of gentleness. Otherwise, I could lose my own faith in that, and I say, no, I'm not going to practice this anymore. I'm going to be the other way, like the other person gets away with everything. So I'm going to be like that too. So it's a gentle, I think I always call it as a tightrope walking game. Sometimes you miss it this way, sometimes you miss it that way. But eventually you get the hang of it, how to really keep your balance and keep going the straight walk, the tight walk without losing too much balance. So yes, what I have seen is this quality of assertiveness also has to be combined with the quality of gentleness. And it's also the quality of, I think you mentioned it already, that sometimes it may take longer than other times to actually bear fruit. In other words, for people to notice it and to acknowledge that as a good method. They may have other options. And I remember, for example, once I was in my residency, and I remember my supervisor coming to me and telling me at that time, that you're good, but you're too soft. You're too soft, or you're too I don't remember the word that he used at that time, and I really had felt at that time perhaps I shouldn't be that way. It was because this was before I knew anything about self and self-respect and all of those spiritual elements that add to the quality. So I was really almost losing my faith in my own self, and I was ready to give up and just be like anybody else. And of course, that would have been a big effort for me also. I wouldn't have felt happy with it. But then when I really began to learn about these qualities, the spiritual base as well as the spiritual ramifications of these qualities and values, then I really started to work on myself and see where I need to change, where I need to shift, and create a strong base and foundation for this quality to stand on. And that's how I think you grow anywhere in spirituality, not by giving up, not by questioning it and losing that whole arena, but to really develop it step by step. And of course, that takes a lot of honesty. It takes a lot of self-reflection. Perhaps it takes a lot of guidance if you have the facility to get guidance from others who are able to guide you a little bit. That's even better. Um, right. And of course, definitely your connection with the Supreme, who can be the best guide of all anyway.
Yes, I mean, it's interesting because, what I'm hearing you say, and it's reminding me of this in what I love about this study of Raj Yoga is that we get to know ourselves originally, how we are, eternally, how we are, and that becomes the ground, right? Instead of this feeling like we have this quality and others like it or what have you, and maybe I get boosted by the fact that others are appreciate something I have, but rather it's really that deepening into this place. No, this is who I really am. And then really,
And it takes a lot of people sense also, I think, one is to know myself, but also to know others where they are at. Sometimes you think that this is the right approach, but perhaps the other person is not ready to listen if you use that approach. Maybe they are at a slightly different level, and so you have to kind of come down to their level and communicate at that level, and maybe give it to them dose by dose, little by little. How when the body is weak, it can't take strong medicine, right? For example, in the same way, sometimes you want to get a point across of what is right, what's wrong. But if that person is in a totally different level of understanding, you have to kind of bring yourself down to that level and speak their same language, and little by little take them to higher grounds. And I think that's part of gentleness and softness also, how we engage in conversations with others, or how we engage with others in our responsibilities, tasks, and so on, you know to understand the other person.
That's beautiful. In that sense, because I think one of these other questions here was like, why is this quality so important in this day and age? And I'm hearing some of that answered in what you just shared, where people are at. So one is, why is this quality really important in this day and age? And then I'm just remembering what Sister Claudia was saying about, we're here at Peace Village, and it's I remember coming here and I was told it's also a pressure cooker. So, I mean, thinking about those two aspects, why is gentleness and softness so important today?
I guess I think everybody is facing a lot. I think, believe it or not, whether you are consciously following a spiritual life, or whether you're not, we're just, in your own awareness. But things are just getting so intense outside in the world in terms of, what's happening, day to day, how much we have to face, and, both in terms of environment, in terms of personalities, in terms of the demands from each other, and even your own self. Everything seems to be escalating at a very, very fast speed. And so the quality of gentleness, as we were speaking before, is it's kind of slows down, that whole process. And it's just almost gives you a message of it's okay, it's okay. And there's very few people in the world today that I can sit with and they'll first tell you it's okay. Um, because, yeah, I mean, we can talk about whatever we can talk about later, but first and foremost, let's settle down to it's okay kind of thing. And that gives everyone's so much sense of calmness, sense of assurance, and even a sense of strength to go on, to speak about whatever they have to speak about, even if they have to complain, even if they have to say something against you. It's okay. Let them say it. It's fine that they say it out, and I can accept it without taking it in, so to speak. And then I can say, what I have to say or respond to that. But at least they have let it out, right? So I think it's this quality of acceptance that's included in the gentleness too. That everything, we can accept everything as it is kind of thing. We don't have to clash negative with negative. That's what happens when there is a negative energy coming in, and when I have some kind of negative energy, even it may not be equally negative, but even if it is a little bit of impatience, lack of acceptance, some kind of arrogance, whatever, it's just adding to the not just the negative energy out in the atmosphere, but adding to the stress that we are putting on our own selves. So both for the sake of the other person as well as for my own self, I think it's important to kind of dissipate it, dilute it, in whatever way I can. And I think this quality of gentleness does it in a very nice way, if practiced, of course, in a genuine way. I think.
It's in when you said that it's okay, I was immediately thought of Daddy Junkie. I was like, and it brings me back to two things. One is this, what you just said about having how all these qualities are intertwined, but this feeling of acceptance. And then there's this expanded, coming back to what we were saying at the beginning about this capacity building, this capacity to mold, but also to allow. And that's allowing, it's accommodating, that kind of almost the ocean can show up and hold it all, instead of this needing to get across one point or whatever anybody need, my point or your point or whatever. And I feel it also allows for we call it often a third thing, something new to show up in that space, something new that can be touched even from the divine. I think that gentleness and the softness allows that the heart softens, that it really is about love, and it's about love that's rooted in truth and rooted in spirituality that allows for that breathing.
And I'm thinking as you speak, I'm just thinking of how much we ourselves have to give this quality to our own selves.
Yeah.
Our own body, our own mind, is facing through, going through so much and facing so many challenges. That if we ourselves cannot be gentle with it, then who else can be, right? And so this was a tough lesson, I think definitely for me, but for most people, many people that are embarking on a spiritual journey, we know, what we can, with what we are capable of, what we can do, better. And yet at the same time, at the given time, we can only do so much, So we have to be so gentle with that kind of understanding and acceptance with ourselves, whether it is the body that can only do so much or whether it's the mind that can only do so much. But to give to yourself the credit for what you are able to do and to not beat yourself up to because you couldn't do more, right? I mean, of course you will aim to do more, but the fact that you beat yourself up really doesn't allow you to do more. It actually takes away the capacity to do more. So I think that's also a very deep secret that we have to learn, how to be with our own selves, whether we are on an active spiritual journey or not. Again, giving ourselves that time and space to be, to feel, to experience the real qualities of the soul, and to grow naturally without forcing ourselves into anything. And this is the beauty of Raj Yoga. Also, I feel that it's really calling us to experience our true self, in a very genuine way, and that's the only way to grow bigger and better, I feel.
And when you say that, I think it's actually in some ways this softness and gentleness is actually a foundational quality in order to develop all these other qualities. Like you said, there's so many, I know many on the spiritual path, even, and we can be so hard on ourselves. Yeah, hardness is like brittle. It creates breakages. So it's nice to hear that this deeper self-respect, and then this ability to be kind and gentle and soft. I don't think that means getting away with things that go against our character or go against the integrity of our character, but just that space to be able to see where I've grown or where I need to grow, but not in a way that's harsh or, forceful. So I'm thinking, does this feel like a good time for us to bring Brother Navir in?
Let's
Anything you want to?
Yeah, let's take a little inspiration from his personality and his speaking, even though not everybody may know him, but it's a beautiful example of this quality.
There is a song in Hindi. I don't know whether you would appreciate it. When the heart is broken into pieces, there is a song. My heart is broken in 100 pieces. One fell here, the other there. So if that kind of condition is there, how would you enjoy life? Heartbroken soul. Open your heart. If it's already broken into pieces, where is the need to open? Open your heart. That means it's not yet opened. Those who still feel they have not opened their heart yet, can you raise your hands? Now, those who have opened their hearts and are enjoying hearty, loving company of your beloved, just raise your hands. There is a song in Hindi. Now this is the opposite of what I said in the beginning. It's a beautiful romantic song, but very close to spirituality. दिल एक मंदिर है, दिल एक मंदिर है, प्यार की जिसमें होती है पूजा, ये प्रीतम का घर है, दिल एक मंदिर है. Sometimes we block, we shut the door, we won't let His love flow to us. So when we think of opening our heart, what is the first thing required? You can open your heart only, even in Lokik life, only when you trust someone. Without trust, no one opens one's heart. So the first requirement, what I feel, is complete trust. In other words, we always say faith. Faith is there. 99.999% people in the world have faith in God. But they don't have trust that God can take care of their feelings. God can bestow so much love.
Yeah. Of course, very, very inspiring and touching, especially because we know him as a personality. But even what he shared was quite profound, I thought. And that's the way he spoke to each one individually too. Of course, this was a class, but still, even when he spoke to, one-on-one, there was just such a feeling of connectedness and genuine interest and care and compassion, I think, which all goes to make up that quality of gentleness and softness. So really, really appreciate my fortune, our fortune for, of course, knowing such a personality and having interacted with that personality and taking inspiration from someone like that.
Beautiful.
So,
Right. So I think we'll invite in Manoj in.
Thank you so much. So we'll take a few questions. So I'll just read this quote because it's very apt, because the question which I'm going to ask you all is closely related to that. So it says that soft-hearted people are not fools. They know what people did to them, but they forgive again and again because they have beautiful hearts. So I think the softness, the value goes a lot with heart. I think people who are soft-hearted, kind-hearted, as Sister Kala was mentioning about his father, her father. And the other quote which I would like to take here is that be soft, do not let the world make you hard, and do not let the pain make you hate, and do not let the bitterness steal your sweetness. Now, why I'm saying this about sweetness, because at Brahma Kumaris we have this slogan that speak softly, speak gently, and on top of that, speak very sweetly as well. So it can be very tough for people. And the question here is being asked that you all are speaking about this softness and gentleness. And I find that people nowadays pick up and make up gentleness. So I really know someone's intention. Is it for fooling me, or are they really genuinely soft? And it's very difficult to cultivate this habit, as you all rightly were discussing. So maybe Sister Claudia can start that first. And then we'll go one by one, alternating. Yeah.
So I think I'm hearing the question is that there's some may act gentle or soft, but we're not really sure if that's the intention. Yeah, I know. Actually, we talked about this, didn't we, Carla? I don't know. It's from the experience I've had, and maybe it's because I've been in this role of being called to convene a lot of conversations. When a relational space is created, like what Navirbai said in terms of trust, then others can let down their defenses, and then that quality of a genuine quality can come across. So, I mean, the only thing that comes across is I know that there's certain cultural, even in the US and certain parts of the country, where there's some are really polite, but underneath they have a whole different alternative motive going on. But I personally haven't experienced it, so maybe it's a better question. Remember, we've talked about it because you had brought up this thought of it sometimes can come across artificial. Remember when we talked? I think we had that conversation, Kala.
Yeah, I'm looking at it from both points of view in terms of someone putting on a show of softness, as well as me myself putting on a show of softness. About someone else putting on that show, I don't think I need to worry too much because we're really focusing on our own selves, isn't it? So in my own case, it can happen because you know that, it's a quality, you want to inculcate it, you want to grow with it, and you try hard. I mean, it's not with an ulterior motive even sometimes, but you try, whatever you can. And yet you're still holding on some kind of negative feelings or, something that's deeper than your external way of expression. And it does come across, vibrations are vibrations. You can't stop them. People will feel it. Uh, but yet at the same time, I feel we shouldn't give up our efforts and in trying to embody that quality. And the only way I feel we can be honest and genuine about, inculcating any quality for that matter or value for that matter is our practice of what we call soul consciousness. So it's only when we get in touch deeply with our original self, minus all the situations, minus all the people, minus all the stories, but me as I am, who am I, what am I, if I can experience some of those original qualities of the soul, the spirit that I am, then I think many of these qualities will flow from that experience, whether it is of peace or of love or, whatever. So this is what I meant when I said the baseline. The baseline of my spiritual identity or awareness is I'm a soul. I have that sense of who I am and what my true original nature is. And that's a practice. That's an ongoing practice. That's not just a 1 day or 2 day event. So the more I can get proficient in that, creating that awareness of who I am, and I act from that, I speak from that, I think people will also feel, and I myself will also get more satisfaction from the values that I'm using in my interaction, I feel. Um, yeah, and in terms of other people putting on, what can I do? They are who they are. But I also picked up this from your sayings, Dr. Manoj, about this quality of forgiveness, which which we did not cover in our conversation. And I think it is an important quality of letting go, forget, forgive. That's an important quality to build this character of gentleness, behavior. because we can't be harsh, we can't be holding on to things.
And it also, it makes me think too of, that focus on the self and to be honest with the self and then to see, and I think every soul really wants to express their original qualities and natures if they experience it. That's where we would all, each and every soul would want to gravitate to. And then that also, if we're lacking something, then we can draw that from the Supreme, the source that's always full. I was just thinking of that in terms of I love what you said, don't give up on our efforts, and just to be honest and genuine with ourselves about it, and focus on ourselves. And I think, again, that there's something about spiritually growing faster by being slower and present and gentle internally with ourselves and with each other.
Nice.
Thank you. So we were speaking about gentleness and softness and being available for people, as we spoke about Brother Nirvair as well. So speaking about gentleness with the self as well, that another value which comes very closely with that is easiness, being easy, being soft with the self. But sometimes when we become easy with the self, we tend to cross the line towards being complacent. So what is the line between complacency and being easy natured, and how do we know that we have slipped and went in? Like there's always we say a thin line between self-esteem and ego. So how do we differentiate this complacency and easiness for the self?
Yeah, I can speak to it in terms of the spiritual efforts, for example. I had said that don't be harsh on yourself or don't force yourself, beat yourself up. But we do have, for example, a routine of the day, right? Meditation in the morning and then some spiritual efforts and classes in the day or something like that. And then an important part of it also is at the end of the day to assess yourself, to keep some kind of a check-in on how I'm doing. So I feel that, for anyone who is a little bit serious about their spiritual progress, that part is also important to keep an eye on what am I, one is how I'm performing out there, but also in terms of my efforts to get better, what am I doing to kind of not slide back, Sometimes I can use different reasons and excuses and slide back. And the important thing for me is to not slide back on my efforts. I could slide back in terms of how I perform or how it comes out, because situations change and I go through different things and whatever, I may have to go through stuff. But in terms of my internal attitude towards my own effort making and getting better at something, what am I holding in my mind? Am I becoming more okay about it? Am I becoming, forget it about it? Am I making more very stressful about it or what? So that's attitude that I have for my own efforts, I feel is important, or whether it's something to do with my relationship with someone else. I could say, I'm so fed up of this person, I really don't care, right? I've come to that point. That's not a very good position to be in. I can always do something to feel better, even if the other person is not doing good, if the relationship is not working the way I want it to be. But I can still, resolve that through my own efforts in coming back to my sense of who I am, what I want to embody, and, what I want to really express authentically. So I think it is, a game after all. But the more honest and sincere I am about doing better, and I think that's what is nice about this value series, especially doing it for 100 values. I think anyone who would have done all the session is not just doing it to spend time on this online. I think everyone must be interested and genuinely um, caring about their own progress. And so if you're doing that, then part of that is also some kind of self-checking and see how I am, what is my attitude for my own.
Mm.
Mhm.
Right. So you can share from your experiences as a pediatrician how to strike this again balance of being soft and flexible with patients, but at the same time being disciplined as well and strict. Because if, as a pediatrician, which I am as well, if we are not strict with our patients, they won't take the medicines. So obviously we can be soft and gentle, but how do we strike the balance
Yeah, it's so
as
true
well?
because you're coming from that place of care, no? So you're not
That's
just
it.
being gentle or soft for the sake of being gentle or soft, which is what I meant, before it was just a quality that I had. And I would even be afraid of, saying something to the parent that was a little bit more than what I would have expected them to accept. But then when you're coming from that place of genuine care, you know what is good for the child, you know what is too much, and they're not doing the right thing. And so you have to kind of, come from that place of care and compassion. And gentleness or not gentleness, that then becomes secondary, right? If there is true care,
Mhm.
then I think, and if you have worked on the quality of gentleness, it'll come out as a natural. But
Mhm.
I think with the patient and doctor relationship, your most important quality is care. So I would put care first. So
Mhm.
what do I think is important in this case, and that I need to communicate to show that I really care, and to actually make sure that they listen. So then I would, of course, say it more assertively. I would take a little bit more time to explain why maybe there is something more that I can do to actually get my point across. Sometimes people don't do it because they don't understand. I'm just telling them to do something and they're resisting because it's not in their genes to do it. But once
Mhm.
I take the time to explain to them, then they will be willing to listen and they will be willing to understand and then follow through. So I think this element of care and, explaining communication, actually, it has to show in my communication. I take the time to communicate what is important to communicate. That's important for them, I think. And I have felt that, I mean, I've experienced that practically speaking too, that as I became more spiritually astute, I would take more time to talk and to communicate and be clear on why I'm saying what I'm saying or why it's important for them to follow through with the medication or whatever. Mhm.
And I think that in addition to that, it's also, we were talking about intention. We can actually look at, I feel I can look at myself at my intention and see how genuine it is. Only when I do have that space, I create that space for myself. And I'm also feeling that, it's discipline, and it's like a structure. There's a spiritual discipline, and it's what I'm hearing in what you said, shared, Sister Paula, is also this rooted in a care that's really around what's benevolent and what's beneficial for them, not for myself, or I mean, it's not about me. And that then it's to take that time to, like we said in the beginning, you say to be able to tune into where they're at and what is needed in the situation. And that can still be that firmness. I think there's a firmness, but it doesn't have to come across harsh. And I feel that on this journey, the deeper I understand myself and have that example of those who exemplify the best of these qualities, the more it feels like I can stand on that rock and not need the discipline or the harshness to come across as the way I'm standing. It's the rock is there. And then this gentleness creates that, like that you said, that seed that's planted in this wonderful garden, that it can grow beautifully. I think, you think about how we care for plants or care for flowers. You can't go and pull out the flower and see if it's growing. You have to leave it in its soil, right?
Yeah, and it does take a little bit more understanding of where the patient is coming from too. They're just coming from a background of a culture, uh, uh, some kind of a habitual thinking, some kind of a weakness, in terms of just, oh, this is just the way the doctor said. So there's lots of things that are also making up the patient who he or she is also. So to be able to step into their shoes, know what they're doing, and I think that's part of the soft and gentle approach. It's not me telling you and you have to follow kind of thing, but I go down to who you are and see how I can communicate or I can convince you to do what is right, that kind of thing.
So, in the interest of time, I'll just take two more questions. I know our time is up. Sorry for that. But this is one of our sisters who's really taken advantage of so many of these sessions. And she says, as we were discussing, that values really, attending these workshops and the episodes give me a chance to look into myself and have I really inculcated. So, she's asking that I'll read it, that in this corporate world of nowadays, it becomes difficult to be soft. And when we are faced with some difficult situation, leaving that space is a good idea, or is it like moving away from challenges? I'm not sure exactly the question, but is it easy in the corporate world to be soft? Maybe a quick
answer. Is there a quick answer? I think it's a case by case thing, right? I mean, I think there are examples of how, this soft energy, soft power is kind of, been able to creep through the harshness of the corporate system, of course, in isolation, in isolated places. But for the most part, you're probably right that it won't go well in most corporate settings. But what will go well is to use this soft power or this gentle approach with individuals relationships, because even in the corporate you still have one-to-one relationships, right, with people. And so I think our approach has always been world transformation, one soul at a time, right? That's what the Brahma Kumaris are always at. So even if you can get the attention of one person, whether it's an employee, whether it's the top person, whether it's a middle person, whoever that person is, but that one person that you can touch, even if it is just a little virtue card, or even if it's just a little soft, gentle music before, that you play in your room or office or whatever it may be. But even if you can touch, one soul, even in a tiny way, I think it's still a good beginning, and it can still have a ripple effect. It's just that we aren't able to see it, but again, to trust the process and to always be available on one-to-one in that spiritual space is what I would say. And of course there are places where you can actually create a collective experience also. Many people are now willing to do a little, self-care time or slot for themselves. They organize themselves for a little 15-20 minute sessions for self-care and things like that. So even if that happens to be the opening door, then I think it's still good to introduce some kind of quiet time, quality time, conversation time, I think, in corporate settings.
Yeah, and I'll just add briefly, the kind of theme of bringing love into the corporate world and trust in the corporate world is actually happening, even using that term love. I have a colleague who has a consultancy company, and it's all about bringing trust into the corporate world. And so it's not that it's impossible. And I think this sense of leaving space, personally for me, I think space is good, because then you're not going to come from a reactive place and have time to reflect. And the other thing, one of the initiatives I'm involved in is the Shiv Shakti leadership approach, which is really about holding the space to emerge a new quality of leadership. And it's more of those feminine qualities of compassion, of collaboration, of care. And that our world is looking to that kind of approach, a different approach that balances out some of the harsher corporate leader approach. So
Yeah. So, and the last question, I'm so sorry. It's just a one-liner answer, maybe, because we are getting, and I think Sister Kala needs to go soon. I want to be a deity, someone is saying, because at Brahma Kumaris we are taught to convert humans to deities, and deities are very soft and gentle. What can I do? Quick fix. Just tell me. They are saying quick fix. How can I become a deity? Soft.
Quick fix to become a deity? So believe that you are a deity and you are one. Mhm. Just imagine yourself to be a deity and be one at the moment, in the moment, and then the next moment, and then a few hours later, again the next moment. Just picture yourself as you already know that the deities have soft qualities. I think you know enough about them, maybe, but just picture yourself at a few times a day as a deity.
and I would
Wonderful.
say, I think I would be inspired to say, just don't give up.
Right, Shanti.
Be yourself and don't give up. That's the summary. So thank you so much for your answers. I'll just request Sister Claudia now to propose the vote of thanks. Over to you, Sister Claudia. Yeah.
Okay, what we want to do is just allow those to have oh, sorry, I remember there's two Claudias. I'll pass it to you, Sister Claudia.
Thank you very much, Calaben, and also Sister Claudia, to be with us today. It was very nice to know more about your point of view about how to be gentle and soft. Actually, many times they tell me I have some souls who do not listen to me because I'm too soft and you have to be rushed. So, but I cannot be this against my way of being. So, but by bringing two boys growing up under my directions, I could see many times, even though I was soft, but I knew something was wrong. And I used to tell my mother, I need to tighten the screw. So that means they knew that I was firm, whatever I was saying, and they cannot play around. And then they would come and then do whatever was said. Even though I was always that quality, I think is kind of a merging the softness from the mother with the affirmative from the father. We have to merge in ourselves. So that way we can go. But yes, I like also when you say to bring divinity to the quality of softness. That is I like that point. So not only be soft because you want to get something, but be soft because you are soft. That is your nature. So it was very nice to hear from both of you. I really enjoy, and I like to thank Claudia to be with us for the first time, and I hope you come back more. And Sister Kala, is wonderful to have you with us. Thank you very much.
Thank you all for doing this. Yes, very enjoyable indeed.
Thank you.
I pass it to Sister Anu for the announcements and for the photograph, and then the quick meditation.
Really wonderful session. And to reach the mark of 100 is like the gifts that we have received every week. Congratulations to all the participants for being here with us in this journey, because the spiritual perspective from meditators, our Senior Raj Yogis, definitely have touched us in one or other way, and we have taken in the values. So, as we always do, after 1 week, we'll have this again, 100th, the workshop on gentleness, softness, and gentleness. For that, we'll have our beautiful senior sisters from India, Sister Deepa and Sister Shreya. They will, first hour will be our experiential exercises to deepen this value. Practically, how can we bring to our life? And then we'll have again an insightful talk between them and the meditation. So 5th of October, please mark your calendars and join us. And we'll also have the silence retreat that we do once a month. That will be our opportunity to really experience this value in the silence. And this is based on the Brahma Kumaris teachings, but everybody is welcome to join and experience it. It would be 6th of October, 8:30 morning for India time. That is 5th October, evening 8 p.m. for West Coast. And I know East Coast may not be possible, it will be very late. And definitely, it's time to celebrate our anniversaries. This is 4th year to really complete 100 episodes of the talk series as well as workshops. So much deeply we have churned the values. So it's time to celebrate its 4th anniversary on 12th of October, Saturday, same time, 7 a.m. West Coast time, 8:30 p.m. India time. And we'll have Brother Eric, the National Coordinator of Brahma Kumaris in Canada, in conversation with Ambika Asha Didi from Om Shanti Retreat Center, Gurgaon, India, and B.K. Bridgmohan Bhaiji, our most senior brother. He is the Chief Spokesperson and Additional Secretary General, Brahma Kumaris Mount of India. Please join us then on 12th of October, and followingly we'll have the 4th anniversary of our work. That will be on 19th of October, same time. We'll have Sister Tanya from Montreal, Brahma Kumaris Montreal in Canada, in conversation with Sister Sharona Stillerman from Israel and Sister Shirin from Florida, USA. So please join us then. And we always create the beautiful calendar that talks about our programs. You will be receiving that. And yes, please check us out on our websites for more information. That's vyasa.in and vancouver.brahmakumaris.ca. All the videos, including today's video, will be on our YouTube channels, as well as these playlists you can note down. Thank you, everyone. Over to you, Manoj brother. I think we'll have the photograph.
I also like to thank all the translators and those who does the, because without them we could not be here today. So they come every week, they translate, the other ones are recording. So I like to thank all of them.
It's a big team behind the scene, otherwise it won't continue, as Sister Kala definitely mentioned. Without that, it can't continue. But it's the attraction to the values, I'm sure, that's deep within we all hold. So thank you to the team. And yes, can we have the photograph with our dear sisters, guests today? So everybody, you can open your video if you would like to be in the photo. Beautiful photos. There is one more page. Wonderful. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Over to you, brother.
Thank you. So let's go in the meditation mode with Sister Kala. Over to you.
Om Shanti. Just a few moments to internalize what we have talked about, heard, and to distill our thoughts. into an experience of soft, gentle personality. That comes from a strong spiritual foundation of who I am naturally. A simple, beautiful, strong being of light. Giving life to this body. Nurturing it with qualities of wisdom, love, compassion, care, consideration, forgiveness, timelessness. Just for a few moments to be in that state of being, an embodiment of these qualities. And it is as if I am now standing on a very strong foundation of self-respect. Holding my head high, my heart big, and my hands free. For embracing anyone and anything with this soft, gentle, spiritual touch. I remember that this is how God is. And therefore, this is how I am as a child of God. Om Shanti.
Thank you so much to both of you for sparing your beautiful moments and your wisdom. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Manoj, and all the others. Appreciate, enjoyed and
Thank
best wishes for onward journey.
Yeah.
Thank
Thank you so much. It was such an honor to be here with the whole family and everyone around the globe to spread these qualities, these beautiful qualities.
Lovely meeting everyone online. Thank you.
Thank you.
you. See you again.
See you again.